Hello, I'm Matt Hume. I'm here to talk through some of our spec house designs. We actually have these available on our website, and we developed a series of plans a few years ago that we just wanted to put out there for people to have a look at. And each one of the homes, it varies in different scales, so different size buildings, different shapes, and they're just different plans that we developed based on our experience and what we've seen built and what people enjoy. And we kind of built in a lot of features that we see typical to homes within this area that people seem to really enjoy. On the website, we have various scales of them, like I said before, so you can kind of pick and choose what options you kind of like from one plan to the next. Without a doubt, it's never a one-size-fits-all kind of thing for anybody. Every site is unique to that given area. There's usually certain site features that we want to express or take advantage of. Maybe we open up walls, maybe we add windows, whatever it takes to sort of marry that plan to that specific site. So there'd be a bit of a process there. And then also with working with clients, every client is unique, and that's okay. We like to build into every design certain aspects of the design that every individual might enjoy. Maybe one person likes quartz countertops, another one likes granite countertops, another one likes natural hardwood floors, another one likes stone tile. It doesn't much matter. It's really just about the general layout, really. We just wanted to get something on the website that would get people thinking when they came to the website. They could kind of pick and choose features as they kind of peruse through those options. So we're looking at one. This is one of the spec houses we designed. It's a very sort of ranch style, which seems to be kind of like the vernacular for our area here in Western New York. People know this form very well, but the form is kind of secondary to the plan, which means the plan, you could have the same plan, but you could come up with a much more modern style to this thing. You can change the stylings and the three-dimensionality of it, as well as, like I said before, you can sort of custom tailor it to meet the needs of the client or the site itself. But this one in particular is kind of like a ranch style. I'm just going to kind of peruse through some of the details of this. We do have some land that we own that homeowners can take a look at if they decided they wanted to purchase one of these sets of plans and modify them or do a custom design for one of these pieces. But this was for a piece over on Brown Road. And you can kind of see in the small site plan, we had an idea of preserving most of the backyard and kind of positioning the house more towards the front of the property where the other homes sort of occupy. Now, shifting to the plan, this is a pretty simple plan. This is a very efficient model because you can see it's a very rectilinear form. There's no really complicated jut outs or anything like that. That helps keep the price down. There's certain aspects to this plan that I really enjoy. This sort of composition is something that we see a lot of that people really seem to enjoy. So in this, you can kind of see that we have the garage over on this side. And being that this is the front of the house, what's nice about this is that when you come in with your car, you can kind of come in and access your garage from the side rather than having to look at the garage, on the front of the house. That's a nice feature, especially if you have the capability in the room to be able to do that. And then if we look at the basic composition of this house, you can kind of see, three almost equally sized rectilinear forms. So the rationale is the rectilinear form, right? This area in particular in the middle is, kind of opened up at the front and in the back. So we call this the public space. in the house. And what's nice about the public space is that's the gathering space. That's where if you have guests or anything like that, they're gonna come to that space. You guys are gonna hang out, enjoy your time together within that area. We call these flanking areas more like the private space. So over here we have the master bedroom. So this is more of a private space. And then this entire wing with this dual bedroom here is also a private space. And these two private spaces are separated by the public space strategically because we're given a bit more privacy to them apart from each other. So we have the master suite here, and then we have the two other suites over here. So there's a bit of a physical separation or barrier between them. This is kind of like the mechanical core, if you will, like right here. You know, this is where it's kind of a blur between public and private space because it gives you that entry sequence from the front. You can see we shifted the entrance over to here because we wanted to maintain this nice clean line sight through. But within this space we have, you know, some support functions for the house. So storage, as soon as you walk in, we have a half bath which can service this public area. And then we have the mechanical room adjacent to that. So this space here kind of goes together a little bit. And then you've got this other sort of flow or movement that happens across this front entryway into the garage and connecting the kitchen. You know, so you have a really short distance to travel with groceries. So there's a lot of maximizing of efficiency in this plan that we really enjoy. And then when you look a little further at the plan and you start looking at the exterior of it, you know, we want to extend this public space with this overhang on this outside. What's nice is that if you do a nice glassy wall along this edge, what happens there is this living room space and that outdoor living room space become kind of like one space. And even though the house square footage is sort of only what you see in this sort of hard line rectangle, what moves like this do is it sort of expands the size of the house visually and perceptually when you're in the space. And it just makes it feel much more ample than just this space alone. It's an extension of that living quarter. So during the summer, you can literally quite open these doors and just hang out in both spaces quite comfortably when you have guests over or whatever. And then that further expands to the backyard where you can start to consider, you know, what is your backyard yardscaping? What do you do with your landscaping? Do you have a pool? You know, what does that transform into, either in the beginning or down, you know, at the beginning of the project or down the road. You can develop all that as you see fit. So yeah, so this is one of our designs, but what's kind of neat is, like I said, going back to the form, you know, this is just a basic, right now three-dimensionally it's drawn as a basic ranch house, but if you kind of take that, I'm just going to kind of go back to one of the 3Ds in the front. You know, that's the basic form of it as it is now. But if you take this thing and you say, okay, hypothetically speaking, you know, maybe I have just an incredible backyard back here. You know, maybe I want to transform this entire form into something that's going to further emphasize that. So now I can actually consider maybe changing this roof plane entirely, right? So now we have a roof plane that's sort of a chisel form, we call it. And it sort of downplays a bit of the frontscape. You know, maybe you can still have some sort of an overhang. You know, we change it to a shed style just to fit the style of this new chisel form. But what this does in the section view is it sort of transforms the space. It grows your headroom from the front to the back, and it really begins to further emphasize a connection with the backyard, right? So we can use different forms as a strategy to custom tailor this floor plan to match the site, like I said before. and really, maximize light, view, whatever the site is giving us to make it truly unique. Thank you.